I'm not making these videos to try to convince you that I am making money as a bookkeeping business owner. My whole goal with making these videos is to convince you that you can make money as a bookkeeping business owner. I recently had somebody comment on one of my videos when I was trying to make a video explaining how you can make $100,000 as a bookkeeping business owner. I did not want to respond to this comment, but I had to. Let me read you the comment real quick. They said, no one is hiring someone to do their books if they have no education in bookkeeping, let alone no experience. As you guys already know, I always say you can start a bookkeeping business with no experience and no education. They went on to say, also, getting clients isn't as easy as saying, I want 2 clients per month. That's what I always say. I always say your goal should be try to get 2 clients per month. Then they finished their comment by saying, prove me wrong, show me your work. How did you get these clients and where are they located? If you guys have been following me for any amount of time, you already know I teach you very actionable steps to show you exactly how I do all of my social media marketing. So let me just reiterate, I am not making these videos. I don't tell you guys how much money I made to try to convince you that I'm making money. That's not my goal. I honestly could care less if you believe me or not. My whole goal with making these videos is to convince you that you can make money starting a bookkeeping business, because I'm doing this because starting a bookkeeping business is incredibly hard. And so I want to be your light and your motivation, your inspiration, because I was you 3 years ago. I started my bookkeeping business with no experience, and the fear of failure is real. Imposter syndrome is real. It's so hard to go against what you've always been doing. Let me tell you a quick story. This video is going to be a Zach Pasquarello bookkeeping expert special. So whenever I went to college, I started studying engineering because I loved math. And then I was a horrible college student, so I ended up failing out of my classes. And then I switched to psychology simply because it was an easier major. And everybody was like, what are you doing? You're studying engineering. You're studying you're going to get a great education at a great school. How could you do this? How could you switch to psychology? And then fast forward 3 years later, I was graduating college and I applied to get into a PhD doctorate program to be a clinical psychologist, but I decided to join the Army. Everybody once again was like, what are you doing? You got into this great grad school. How can you throw all of that away and join the Army? Then I was in the Army for 3 years and I wanted to get out of the Army because I missed my family. I was not spending enough time with my kids. Everybody was like, what are you doing? You could just stay in the Army for 20 years and retire as an officer and have a great pension and be set for the rest of your life. How could you get out of the Army? You got to stay in. I can't believe you're making a horrible decision. And then I was working at a warehouse as a manager making $100,000 a year. And I decided to start a bookkeeping business. Once again, you guys can recognize a pattern here. Everybody was like, what are you doing? How could you quit this job? You've got a great job. You've got a family. You've got a house. What do you mean you're starting a bookkeeping business? You've never been an accountant. You've got no college education. No one's going to hire you. What are you doing? Despite all the odds, here I am 3 years later, still running my bookkeeping business. And now, drum roll please, my whole goal is to teach you how to start a bookkeeping business with no experience in less than 30 days. That's it, plain and simple. I've got a ton of links in the description of this video. You can buy stuff from me, or I've got free stuff, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. You guys already know I make the majority of my money from actual bookkeeping. So this is just a passion project. I am only making these videos because I love teaching other people what I know. Now, let me give you 3 scenarios of a type of person who is thinking about starting a bookkeeping business. The first person is a younger person, maybe fresh out of college, or maybe you didn't go to college. Maybe you have a little bit of work experience, but you probably don't have a ton of responsibility. But you're young, so you have some pros and cons in this scenario. You don't have a ton of responsibility. Maybe you don't have kids. Maybe you don't even have a house. Maybe you're still living with your parents, or maybe you're sharing an apartment with a couple buddies or a couple friends. So you are in a perfect position to start a bookkeeping business. If this is you, the timing is perfect. You're young, you can make mistakes, you don't have a ton of responsibility, maybe you don't have kids or a house or a ton of bills, maybe you're not in a lot of college debt. You are a perfect candidate to start a bookkeeping business. And you're young, so probably picking up on technology and social media might be a little bit easier for you. However, with you being young and not having a ton of experience, people might not take you as seriously. So you're going to have some struggles. But you're young, so who cares if you make mistakes? That's one type of person. The other type of person is maybe a much older person, but your kids are now out of the house, out of college. Maybe you've had 3 or 4 careers, or maybe you retired from a career. Maybe you were an accountant, or maybe you worked at UPS or Amazon or Walmart for the past 30 years. You just retired from that job and now you want to start something new. That's great. Once again, you probably don't have a ton of expenses. You probably don't have to pay for daycare. You're not raising your kids anymore. Your house is probably close to paid off and you're very comfortable with where you are. I'm sure you've got a great retirement account, a 401k, IRA. All that is great. And you don't have too many expenses. However, you are a little bit older, so technology and social media, that's a little bit more foreign to you, but you're older, so people are probably going to take you more seriously, more likely to trust you, especially with something as private and serious as finances. So we have 2 opposite spectrums here, but both of these people don't really have a ton of expenses. They're pretty comfortable with where they are. So if they make a couple mistakes, not the end of the world. But the exact opposite, the older person, more people are likely to respect them and trust them, but they're not as good with computers and social media and marketing as the younger person. So you kind of have pros and cons to both people, but both people are positioned perfectly to start a bookkeeping business. The young person has nothing to lose, their whole life ahead of them. The older person has a ton of stability and a ton of experience, and they're just trying something new. Now, there's a third type of person. So both of these people, perfect candidates, but this third person is a terrible candidate to start a bookkeeping business. And let me just, spoiler alert, this third person was me. This person is middle-aged, has a family, has a job, has a mortgage, has a spouse, has a ton of bills to pay, already has a job, and they would be crazy to quit their job and to risk it all to start a bookkeeping business. That was me 3 years ago. I had kids, a wife, a house, a mortgage, a bunch of bills. I was paying for daycare. I had a good job. It would be crazy for me to quit my full-time job and start a bookkeeping business. But here I am 3 years later. I am so happy I made that decision. So whoever you are, young kid right out of college, their whole life ahead of them, older person, kids are out of the house, retired from their job, or middle-aged person, kids in the house, great job, whatever your situation is, it's going to be okay. You are in a perfect position to start a bookkeeping business. Now, let me give you 3 tips. If you are one of those 3 types of people, or maybe you don't fit that description of any of those 3 types of people, it doesn't matter. That was just for example. Let me give you 3 tips if you are thinking about starting a bookkeeping business. First of all, it's all about relationships. And when I talk about relationships, I mean marketing, sales, developing relationships with local business owners, making those connections, whether it's in-person networking events or social media, or maybe you're leveraging your current network. Maybe you go to the local YMCA, or maybe you are a member at your local church, or maybe you are on the school board at your kid's elementary school. Whatever your current local networking group is, it's all about relationships. I can't tell you how many times I've been word of mouth referred to some complete stranger, and they were like, hey, so-and-so referred me. I really trust them. So I trust you. I want you to do my bookkeeping. Those types of clients that you get from word of mouth referrals from relationships are some of the best clients you could ever get. And as a business owner, your reputation is everything. So you need to have solid relationships. You cannot sacrifice your integrity. You cannot do things to undermine your reputation and your relationships, because these people, these business owners, these members of your community are going to help you grow your bookkeeping business. Step number 2, Tip number 2 is you have to learn bookkeeping in QuickBooks. It's really not that complicated, but you cannot overlook this step. Just become a certified QuickBooks Pro advisor and also actually learn bookkeeping fundamentals and accounting basics. You're going to learn as you go, but take effort and maybe take an online local college class, or maybe enroll in a course, or maybe watch YouTube videos, or buy an intro to accounting textbook. It doesn't matter what you do, but you need to constantly be educating yourself and learning about bookkeeping and accounting fundamentals. You need to understand some basic things: debits and credits, how to do journal entries, accounts payable, accounts receivable, balance sheet, income statement, the general ledger, statement of cash flows. You need to understand these bookkeeping and accounting fundamentals in order to be a good bookkeeper. You're not going to know a ton in the beginning, and that's okay. You can learn as you go, but as you're learning, the best and most important thing you can do, don't make the same mistake twice. I cannot reiterate and emphasize that enough. Whatever you do not make the same mistake twice, because you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. It's impossible to avoid making mistakes. But if you make the same mistake over and over again, that's going to be bad. Okay, the last thing, deliver high quality customer service. And it all comes down to communication. So learning bookkeeping and QuickBooks, that's great. Sales and marketing, obviously you got to do that. But so many people fail to deliver high quality customer service. So their business might be okay for 12 months, 18 months, maybe 2 years, but then they're going to start losing clients. They're going to get a couple bad Google reviews. Their reputation is going to suffer because they're not communicating effectively. They're not delivering high quality customer service. So they're going to lose clients. All that effort and energy you just put into sales and marketing is wasted because you're not retaining your clients. So once you start your bookkeeping business, once you get a couple clients, you need to communicate effectively. And that looks like responding to emails within 24 hours, answering the phone if people call you. Actually do what you say you're going to do. If you say, I'm going to get you your profit and loss in the first 10 days of every month, actually do that. There's nothing more frustrating than your clients paying for bookkeeping, and then they email you and say, hey, can I get an updated profit and loss? And maybe you don't respond, or maybe you say, yeah, I'm working on it. And they say, what do you mean you're working on it? I'm asking it for 2023 and it's already March of 2024. Like, what are you talking about? You don't have that done yet. I've already paid for bookkeeping for 2023. Like, I thought you said you're going to get me an updated and accurate profit and loss. So just do what you say you're going to do, communicate effectively, answer the phone, respond to emails. Everything's going to be fine. If you have no experience, if you've got no education, that's fine. Don't worry about it. You can start a bookkeeping business, because I did 3 years ago.